hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 45 of A Girl Like Me Live, which is an interactive series of discussions where I or other members of the Well Project staff and community sit down and talk to other community members about things that are important and relevant to women who are living with HIV and vulnerable to a diagnosis. I am so excited for today's conversation, which is going to be based on off of like the importance of family history and knowing our family history and what those knowing our family history can tell us about our own health today and how we can sort of like I don't know, proactively address things. So I'm really excited to be here with Oni, who I will allow you a moment to introduce yourself because I'm sure I would do a disservice.
Okay, hi Cece. It's so great to be here with you and talk on this important topic. So I'm Oni Blackstock. I'm a primary care and HIV physician. I'm also founder and executive director of Health Justice, which focuses on capacity building for health departments and hospitals in terms of becoming more equitable, and then also doing a lot of community-centered research. So that's what I do.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I know I'm going to learn so much, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation because, like, now I'm 38, I'm getting closer to 40, and
Yeah.
things like people, like, the older people and doctors used to say back then, watch what you eat, do all of that
Yeah.
stuff, like, is resonating more now. Like, I felt like I had more time at one point,
Yes.
and now, like, it does matter that my grandma had diabetes. Tell me more about
Yes, yeah, yeah. No, no, totally. I think, that's the thing as we get older, we start realizing how these different connections to, our family or things that we might be seeing patterns around health, how they may impact us. And so I often think about like family history as it's like a low cost tool you can use to like help you just help you in your conversations with your healthcare provider figure out where are the areas that we need to be focusing on. And so you mentioned your grandma has diabetes. My mom died of a leukemia, a type of leukemia, when she was 47, so like a year younger than I am now. And I remember having conversations with my sister about, she said, "Oh my goodness, Oni, I spoke with this cancer specialist and they're saying that we need to get, genetic testing or something because our mom was so young when she got this leukemia." But it just like, it wasn't anything that was on my radar. And so what I realized is just like getting more information would allow me to, do I need to see a genetic counselor? Do I need to do this? Is there screening that I need to do? So yes, incredibly, incredibly important. And just to say for women, in particular, there are a number of conditions that are, can have a hereditary or a genetic aspect to it, where if another family member has something, it can increase your risk. And we'll go more into detail on that, but like breast and ovarian cancer, heart disease, even, depression, anxiety, those are all things that can, an autoimmune condition as well. So autoimmune, like if someone has lupus, they can't necessarily give lupus to their child, but there's a susceptibility or a vulnerability to autoimmune conditions that can be passed on.
That is so interesting. And as you was talking, I heard like the genetic and hereditary. Are those the same things? Or are those terms interchangeable?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So it's so okay. So maybe what I want to also just say is not use these like big terms. So there are a few things like a lot of times we'll say first degree. So the people that we're closest to in terms of our genetic makeup, or in terms of our genetic makeup, like for instance, be your parents and like your children. And so that's first degree. And then second degree would be like your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents. So if there's like someone between you, so like there's your mom and then there's your grandma. So your grandma is second degree. And then third degree would be like your first cousins or things like that. And so the closer someone is to you, so whether it's like your parents or your children, that it means that you have more genetic material that is similar. And when we say genetic material, it's like in all of the cells in our body all have sort of these instructions on how to make us who we are. And so that some of that can be passed down and can be hereditary because it's in our genetic material that gets passed from us
Got
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Got you. And good morning, Tiami.
yeah.
I shared this on social media. Tiami, I remember your comment. She said that she can only go far, like only a little way back in her family history. So, like, I feel like that for myself. My father is Jamaican.
Yeah.
And so, like, half of my
Mhm.
family, I
Yeah.
have no clue anything
Yeah.
about because I wasn't raised with them and all of that. So like I'm really dependent on my mom's side, and that already looks grim over there. So,
I'm with you too. Same thing. Same thing. My dad's from Jamaica too. Yeah, I don't really know about how everyone's doing. Just know how his health has been. But that's the thing. It's like there comes a point where it's like you want to start documenting some of that stuff, especially while our family is members are here. Like, are there folks that you can talk to, even on your mother's side, where you can start even writing down, like, okay, this cousin had this, or this my aunt had this, because it just starts painting a picture for you that you can then also take to your healthcare provider and say, these things they seem like they might be running in my family, but I'm not sure what do I need to do differently. For instance, like my grandmother, she died in her 70s of breast cancer. But when you have breast cancer, if you get it in your 70s, it's likely not a genetic component to it. So it's not something where the risk will be inherited or passed down to your children. But if she had cancer in her 40s, or younger, that would be concerning, and that would indicate that there's probably testing, earlier breast cancer screening that's needed.
that makes a lot of sense. And like thinking about painting that picture, because I definitely don't want to see any of the family members that come after me, be in this position, just like guessing about,
Yes.
and it's always interesting to me. There's been like thyroid talk in my family,
Mm.
and it's like every now and then somebody will pop up with a thyroid issue. And I'm like, nobody's looking at it's like what was going on with y'all parents and the
Right.
grandparents. Like what? No, you mentioned mental health a moment ago. I'm like, yes, y'all don't think somebody need to be seen about this at some point?
Yes, yeah, and it's interesting. I think, especially about, you mentioned mental health, like, with mental health in particular, like so this is I always think about this. So you were inside your grandmother when your mother was inside her. Like, you were like a little when your mom was inside her. You were like a little egg. So everything that she was exposed to, that your mother is exposed to, in many ways you're exposed to, and so it's just like it just makes you realize just how interconnected we are, not just like in this moment, but also like across time in terms of our lineage. And so with mental health, like I know, for instance, I'm being like sharing so my grandmother had borderline personality disorder. My mom dealt with depression, anxiety, like all of that, and I deal with anxiety. So all of that. So I remember my therapist said, all of your anxiety, it's not all yours. And it kind of like unburdened me a bit, because I was like, maybe something's like wrong with me. I'm dealing with like anxiety all the time and panic disorder and things like that. But she's like, no, because some of it gets embedded in our DNA, and it gets passed on. So the experiences that my mom had when she was, growing up in Brooklyn on welfare with a single mom, and you know, being mistreated and all this stuff that was happening, like that gets passed on. So just the awareness of that can allow us to also not feel like we're all responsible, but not to blame, but just to figure out, and then what we need to do to make sure that we are grounded and getting the care and everything we need.
Absolutely. And I saw Olivia's comment came when it said Dr. Blackstock dropping one of my all-time favorites. We were all alike.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. I know. I love that. Because I was actually thinking about this when, I mean, obviously it's been out there, but I remember seeing a Black woman who was pregnant, She was in labor, and the nurse, you may have seen this, it went viral. There was a nurse, it was a white nurse, who, this one was in labor and was just kind of like, what, just ignoring her, and just was like asking her questions and not recognizing the pain she was in. But her grandmother, and the woman's mother was filming it. And I was like, there are 3 generations there, and they're all absorbing what is happening. Like, it was just so, and actually 4 generations, because the baby has oocytes. Anyway, 4 generations in that room experiencing medical racism, it's experiencing being silenced. And so, yeah, it was just really profound. So, Olivia, I love that that's one of your all-time favorite facts, because that's one that is just so, it's just profound.
I had not seen that, but that is.
Yeah, Bridget saw it. Yeah, Bridget saw it. It was like infuriating. But the intergenerational aspect of it too, I was just like, this is really something.
And then we're just supposed to like forget about it and move on, but it's not that easy. And like, speaking that intergenerational piece, so like, you know, I grew up with a mom who was born in the 60s, and she just had like this acceptance and like not judging, and, you know, just gave us a voice because that wasn't what she experienced during her childhood. And, you know, sometimes to our fault, because no, maybe we should have gotten seen about like that quirky thing you do. I also do.
Yeah, right.
We could go get seen about this, maybe, or maybe not. But I love that teaching backwards thing. I feel like that's kind of happening right now in my experience. Is like, oh, I'm acknowledging things within myself, and it's also making my elders, the older folks in my family, like, hey, maybe.
Yes. No, exactly. No, it's so important. And I think, you know, just thinking about, I mean, there are lots of different areas I had mentioned before that where we see where other family members' health, you know, like our mother's health can impact our health. So like risk of heart disease. And these things are like really important to know, because oftentimes for women, when we do present, especially Black women or women of color, like when we do go in to see a healthcare provider, you know, often our concerns might not be heard, they may be ignored. And with heart disease in particular, which again can have a hereditary component. So if, I think it's if your mother, I will double check this, but I believe if it's before the age of 65 had heart disease, that suggests a genetic component. And so, what was I gonna say? Sorry, lost track of it. Oh my God, like lost track of the point I was going to be making, but it was about, oh yes. So many things can present differently in women. So sometimes you can have like heart disease can present as like nausea, like you feel like nauseated and want to vomit. It can be like maybe stomach pain. It can present like lower down in women. So women have a completely different presentation. And so it's good to know this in general. And especially if you have a family history, is that these symptoms could start earlier as well. So that's why family history is also important, because it's like, I should be looking out for these things, but I might need to be looking out for them even earlier.
So is that like, I know you said like we can share these things with our providers. I know that there are certain guidelines. I don't know them all and stuff, but like they say by this age you should be screened for this. And sometimes it's hard to get screened prior to that recommendation. Like, what are we supposed to do as a patient to advocate for ourselves in that way?
Yes, no, it's so important. So a lot of the screening should be covered under, if folks have insurance, should be covered under with no cost under the Affordable Care Act, which we know that they're trying to destroy. And then we'll also know some folks don't even have insurance, so they don't have access. But there are programs that can help. But like for instance, mammograms, the recommendation is for women starting at age 40 to have that discussion with their healthcare provider. And it's recommended 40 to 50 is a little like, but every 1 to 2 years up until age about 74. But if you are someone who has had, if your mother or your sister had breast cancer, it's going to be like 10, 15 years earlier that you might need to start screening. And depending on if that breast cancer was also with ovarian cancer. So if ovarian cancer and breast cancer run, there are these inherited syndromes that can occur where you're at high risk for breast and ovarian cancer. then you have to get, then genetic testing is recommended. You might have heard of women having to get mastectomies even before they get cancer because their risk is so high. But this is not to scare anyone. It's just to know, when we know sort of the pattern in our families, we can then tell our provider, who should be asking about family history. That's like part of, especially the first time you meet, you should go into detail about family history. And then they can say, okay, we might need to, screen you earlier for breast cancer. We might need to use an MRI instead of a regular mammogram, and we might need to do genetic testing. But all of that they'll know based on what patterns they're seeing in your family.
Oh, this is so interesting. I saw one of the comments come up. It was a question. Do you recommend tools to collect family history and to keep it documented?
So it's going to be before this, I was looking online. I'm a little, so the CDC actually has like a tool, but I want to get more data, and then I can see if I want to recommend it. I think there's just so much going on with the government and like information being misused and things like that. But there is this family history tool on the CDC's website. I did go to it. They do want your name and things like that. So I kind of feel a little weird about that, but I think we can always, we can also just do it ourselves. We can, just kind of create those little branching trees. Like, this is like my mom, this is my dad, this is me. And then like just tracing back. Like I might be a little like wary of putting our like personal family information into like any websites or software. It's just like, we just don't know how that can be used. But I know that there are like templates online where you just Google like family history tree, and then it'll have those little boxes and stuff like that you can start filling in. And that could be helpful. And then you could bring that with you to your healthcare provider.
That's a really good idea. I never, for the ancestry pieces of it, period, thinking to go back and do a family tree. But it's always just, my family history has been kept with those that I know. Like, my mom, my dad,
yes,
maybe a couple grandparents. But now maybe not just for the relationship piece, but knowing what, what I'm have to look forward to. And like my grandmother, she died, I think, when she was like 71. So I've already put a cap on my life of 71 because that. And then, an HIV diagnosis. And this has been coming up a lot lately. Because I guess it's time to get serious about health. It's, more than just HIV, because there's other conditions out there with HIV, and I will be managing more than this one day, I assume. And just seeing how, okay, I've seen y'all manage y'all's conditions like that. Maybe I want to do it a little differently. So maybe I can get to 72.
Yes. No. And I hear that. It's like a lot of, and I felt the same way. I was making it to 48. I was, my mom died when she was 47. I was like, oh my God, I made it. It was like really bittersweet because she like didn't get to see 48. But the more information we have, the better we can make decisions for ourselves. And just, thinking about like, there are kind of a few different buckets. Like, so there's like cancer screening that we have. So again, I mentioned breast cancer screening. So if breast cancer runs in the family, like going to the healthcare provider being like, is this, is there a mother, a sister, auntie? Do I need to get this early? There's also colon cancer screening. And that's with colonoscopy, where there's another way, but this gold standard way is to put you to sleep, take a little camera. Oh, before they put you to sleep, you have to drink all that stuff. I know folks who are watching probably had this happen too. I did it. You drink all this stuff to clear everything out. So you're right into the bathroom all the time. And then they put you to sleep, and they put a little camera in, and they take a look around. And so it was really interesting for the recommendation actually for Black people was to start, initially was 50. And then they were saying started at 45 for Black people. And now they're saying start at 45 for everybody. And then if you have colon cancer in your family, so people getting colon cancer young, and we've heard about like, Black Panther, I'm blanking on his name, the actor who played Black Panther. Yes. We say it again?
Is it Boswick? I don't know.
Yeah, Chadwick Boseman. Exactly. And people get, that's a sign. When people do get cancers early, it can be a sign that something is part of like a genetic syndrome or an inherited syndrome. And so in that case, you talk to your doctor, and you'd want to get colon cancer screening at least 10, 15 years before you're like you would otherwise get it. So colon cancer. I'm also thinking about, again, I mentioned heart disease, so they can do screenings for like cholesterol, doing cholesterol screening, because sometimes when people have a history of family, of heart disease in their family, it can be a number of different reasons, but one of them can be something called familial hypercholesterolemia. It just means high cholesterol runs in your family, but it's a specific type of, there are a few different types of them that really do raise the risk, but those things can be caught on cholesterol screening. So if you have a history of, as I mentioned, heart disease history, family history is considered if your mom had heart disease before age 65 or your dad had it before 55. That's considered like early. And so you would be getting your cholesterol screening at an earlier time than typical.
Interesting. So is this like stuff that providers they usually talk to you about, or do they just run your blood and put the test?
Well, that's why, like, so whenever I see new patients, like we always like, okay, what are you coming in for? Some people are just coming in for like they just want to be checked out. Usually there's some reason they want to be checked out. But we ask about like, what's the issue that's going on right now? What's your past medical history? Like, what conditions have you already been diagnosed with? Medications, things like that, social history. And then we ask about family history. And again, like the family history, like they should ask about like both sides of your family. They should ask about first, I remember I said first degree is like a parents, children. They should ask about second degree, aunties, grandparents, and then third degree too. And so have all that information. So just so for folks watching, like getting your healthcare provider asking about your family history should be a standard part of that, especially that initial visit. The only thing is they may not come back to it, like, because it's something you usually do when you first meet a patient, but things may be happening to family members, things like that. So it will be something that, like, if there's new information that you have from when you first started your seeing your doctor, you definitely want to have them update the family history, because that might change what types of things you need to get screened for or tested for.
I saw some comments. I think Joe had a question. Do we as a woman over 50 still need to be vaccinated against hepatitis, shingles, and pneumonia? I don't know the keyword, but I think it's pneumonia. Something like that. Asking because I don't know when is the right time to start and when to stop. I'm yet to go for hep vaccine.
Okay, so for hepatitis, there are three main types of viral hepatitis, and so the ones that we typically vaccinate for are we can vaccinate for hepatitis A and hepatitis B. So Jyoti, what I would do is your doctor can test whether you already have immunity, like you already have protection to those. So I would just ask your doctor, because you check antibodies. So for instance, I've been vaccinated against hepatitis B, and if you check my blood, you would be able to see that. So it's possible, because hepatitis B is pretty common vaccine. So I would just ask your doctor to check your blood to see if you need to be vaccinated for Hep A or B. Shingles, definitely. 50 and over would definitely recommend vaccination against shingles. So people may know shingles is like, the virus that causes chickenpox. It can go back and hide and then like come back out when you're older and your immune system is weakened. So shingles is recommended for everyone 50 and older. And then pneumococcal, that one I cannot remember. I know if you have like diabetes or some other conditions, that's recommended. But there also may be an age cutoff, an age range at which it sort of recommendation goes in. But I see you said you haven't had your hep vaccine. Yeah, so I would just go, hepatitis B can be acquired through sexual activity. So that's definitely something that you would want to protect yourself against if you are sexually active or plan to be sexually active.
Thank you. I know Bridget had also made a response, and I just really appreciate the community. It's not often that you like are able to get, down to earth medical help.
Oh yeah, no, and a lot of stuff, a lot of it, I think so many people, I know people like are like AI is horrible, whatever, but a lot of people are going to AI and to internet searches. I go to internet searches all the time. I'm like, for instance, we just need to know how to be just sort of critical around and be able to appraise and judge whether the information is accurate and this is like a credible source. I think that's like the main thing. But I'll just say, like, right now, it's like so much TMI. CC, I'm telling you everything. Like, I am likely going through perimenopause, and I was like, oh my goodness, why can I smell like every man who passes by? Like, and not in a good way. Like, I'm like, woo, woo, woo. And then I could also like smell my body odor. And I was just like, apparently it's a very and I Googled it. It's called hyperosmia, and apparently it's a very common. It's because of the hormonal fluctuations that happen with perimenopause. Like, I had this new superpower where I can like smell folks from a ways away. It's just like, sometimes. So I would encourage people to look stuff up, but just make sure like you are looking at a credible source.
Yes, we just did an episode on that, Bridget and I, and yes, many people don't. I don't think they know how to vet the information, when we talk about like the misinformation and disinformation. But I heard you earlier in the conversation, not even wanting to recommend a source from what used to be a trusted source.
I know, it's so no, and just to say, I know so many wonderful people at the CDC, including Dr. Robin Fanfare, who is leading HIV prevention and is doing the hard work and has been really fearless. And I know there's so many folks that are really committed. I just, it's just the current administration just has their hands in a lot of things that they did not previously. And so a lot of their government websites where they are tracking folks, this is all like factual. So tracking folks sort of information and things like that. So I want to just make sure folks stay safe. So also just thinking about, so like librarians, just to say trusted sources of information. If there's a library near you, librarians can be really helpful in terms of finding like health information for you, even related to like family history. I would go to them. Obviously, if you have a healthcare provider, if you have someone else in your life who you trust, like having them help you find information, like all of that, because sometimes like the stuff online is just, you don't know who is posting it and what's behind it. But typically like .edu websites, like education.edu websites can typically be trusted. I would have loved to say .gov websites, but now they have these really crazy disclosures around gender ideology and whatnot. So yeah.
That's where we are.
But use our librarians. I always say librarians are like the original data centers. So
yes. I was thinking like throughout this entire conversation, like any of this can be applied to, like women, any woman. And then I'm like, what about women living with HIV? Like, does it impact? And it gets, we've seen some breast cancer that earlier on, and Tiffany is the one that always pops to the front of my brain. Like, she was not even 30 and born with HIV. Like, so then it makes you think, because I always look to that community, the lifetime survivor community, like, oh God, okay, y'all made it through all of this, so that means it's looking good for me. But then when we start seeing things like the cancer, it is natural for me to, was it the HIV? I don't know if that's the natural response to everybody, but like, so then does that mean that I should also be getting screened earlier? What's the impact? Because I'm not a lifetime survivor. I've been living with it for 18 years. It's a long time.
Yeah.
Like, what is the impact? And right now it just feels like, not having a family history, that uncertainty of what HIV is going to do to my body when I'm 70, all of those things, it just feels like a haze.
Yeah. and
to
what to
figure out
focus
how to just sort of kind of get some control over it. And it does seem like working with my medical provider and that team, being able to, but it comes with trust,
Yes,
know.
yes. And not everyone has that. It's, there are, so with, and it's so good that you're like thinking about this and you're on top of this and you have a team of folks who are helping you, just navigating this, but with living with HIV and just making sure that you're getting all of the care that you need. What I was going to say is that there are studies that show that because the virus, when it is replicating uncontrolled, it creates inflammation, and that chronic inflammation can predispose to many different things, can affect many different organs, and can cause cancers. And so that's why that's one of the like really wonderful things about HIV treatment is that it lowers that uncontrolled replication, that inflammation that's happening. It still is happening at lower levels, but not the same as if someone was off treatment. And so that's like another reason just to stay on treatment. But there is something about the virus and the inflammation that it causes that does tend to predispose to cancer. So I think just saying that, everyone, but particularly people living with HIV, just to make sure that you are like up to date with like all of the screenings that are needed. And there may be folks who are watching who have more information on this, but yes, you do want to make sure. And then the same thing with like the diabetes and high blood pressure, and some of the medications can also predispose to some of these chronic medical conditions. So just being on top of that to the extent that you can. I know it's a lot, juggling our many different roles and being a parent and a partner and all of this. It's a lot.
And it seems like I'm not aware of all of the initiatives and programs, but like family history playing such an important piece. I just wish that I would have, paid more attention earlier on, but I don't feel like I'm too far on. But, it wasn't important to me then. It wasn't, not even gonna lie. But I'm grateful, that I have these experiences looking at the history. Everybody talks about perimenopause and menopause now. I'm just looking at all of y'all experience. Like got the family history and the peer future that I'm looking at.
But that also, there's also like a hereditary component too. Like typically, like the age at which someone might go through menopause, that can be inherited. So like if you know that your mom went through it at a certain age, it may be more likely. It doesn't necessarily predict, but it may increase the likelihood of you having menopause at a certain age. So even like, and if whether she had like, oh my God, what am I blanking? Hot flashes, or like when she did have menopause or go through perimenopause, like what were the symptoms? Because there can be some similarities when you experience it. So it's really interesting. And perimenopause obviously is a topic that, when I was in medical school, I don't even know if we had a lecture on perimenopause. I hope that was like 20 years ago. I hope that things have changed, but a lot of it's like learning from like, other family members or friends about what the experience is like. Because, and just to say in our 40s, our bodies, they're like 2 or 3 points in our lives where our bodies go through like accelerated aging. And apparently your 40s, mid 40s is one of those points where it's just like things just like kind of speed up for a period of time. So that, and again, that also is like, did your mother also, what was her experience around perimenopause, menopause? And if you have, that may shed some light on what your experience might be like.
This is so much. I was thinking,
but it's nothing to be scared of. I don't want to be scared anyone. I think it's just like as much information as we can gather and try to like synthesize it and make sense of it so that we can make the best informed choices for ourselves.
Because that's all what it's about. That is what it is all about. I was thinking about like going back to have these conversations as I would think they even build out a tree. I'm not sure if you've had to have any of those conversations with family members. I'm not if that's an easy conversation to have. Tell me about all of your health issues, or
Right, right.
issues, and thinking like what types of pointers I would give to myself even
Yeah,
trying to have a
yeah.
conversation with someone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so obviously, it depends on what relationships are. If you've spoken to the person, but I really want to make sure that we are, because it's also like not, you want to make sure you're taking care of your health, but also knowing that information is going to actually help your entire family take care of themselves. So like, I think like coming from that perspective, like I just want to make sure that we know, what's happening in our family in terms of health, and so that we can make sure that we're getting whatever preventive care that we need, and so that can be one approach. And I think it's also just being like, I know you mentioned that you had diabetes. Like, how old were you when you had diabetes? Or like, I know you said like your mom, like my mom, she died of cancer. Like, what type of cancer did she have? Like, when was she diagnosed? Just having like some of those details can be really healthy. But I think coming at it from like, we literally are interconnected when it comes to our families. It's like we are connected in so many ways. So being like, this is for us, and this is for us, and for future generations too. Like how, like your little one and other little ones. Like we want to make sure that they are getting what they need as well.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking like, you know, if there's, because I have a history of heart disease, I think on both sides. And seeing how like I could make certain lifestyle changes. Life I
Mm-hmm.
guess is all about not giving up, I
Yes.
guess, until it's over. But not, not being so bleak about it. Like, okay, I know that I'm at a higher chance of getting it because these folks had it, but maybe I can do things like exercise, whatever
Yeah.
y'all
Yes.
do to avoid it, then maybe I just need to go a little harder there so that I don't
Exactly.
end up in
Exactly.
that situation.
Yeah, like high blood pressure, for instance. That's something that tends to run in families, and especially for Black folks, it's something that's very common in our communities. So what, like avoiding, to the extent you can, like when you're younger, you want to eat whatever you want to eat, but like as you're getting older, like okay, maybe I can have less salt, or maybe I can eat more fresh vegetables and stuff like that. Like just sort of do things, in moderation that works for you, because you obviously don't want to be miserable eating food you don't want. But like knowing like, oh, if my mom or my dad had high blood pressure, I'm actually at increased risk for having high blood pressure, and it starts early. Like I would have patients in their like 20s coming in with high blood pressure.
Really?
It's very common, very very common. Yeah, yeah. And I think, it's also harder because our society, like, we don't have a lot of green space. It may not be safe for people to be walking. Getting healthy foods it can be easier to get, or less expensive to get, foods that are not healthy and that are full of salt. So a lot of this stuff, it actually happens like really early. And even at ages where people may not even be like, in your 20s, you're like, I don't really need to go to the doctor. I'm like healthy. But if you have a family history of high blood pressure, you should be getting your blood pressure checked um, early on.
And think about that like environmental piece of it, like the access
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to even the I've been to the market, the same market that I go through to all the time. I don't know what is going on with the fruits and vegetables right now. Nothing is tasting right. The bananas are weird, the strawberries, grapes, and it's just like I'm trying, and I'm grateful to have the resource to be able to go try another market or a
Yes.
place. But what if somebody, took the bus to get here? Like
Yeah.
now, just I'm out of vegetables and fruits for this week,
Yes.
whatever. So I just being able to see these things and know that it's existing, and figuring ways to make it around this sometimes what feels like the system, because I feel like
Yes.
a
Yeah.
lot
No,
of it intended to be this way.
yeah.
But knowing that we like banding together and we're going to do the best that we can
Yes.
So that's what I'm here for.
No, totally, totally. And I saw that Krista wrote, especially with that Paris, the fresh veggies and fruits can be hard with this, with the Paris, with the cyclospora that's happening. But again, remember to like eat things that have, a banana, things that need to be peeled or cut are much safer, or things that need to be cooked. Yes, and then the GMO, yeah, a lot, yeah. This is another thing. So it's like we have these like inherited, these family histories, these, we may have things that put us at increased risk. And then, like you said, Cece, the environmental part of it, that then interacts with it. So it's like, it's a little bit like why, like autoimmune conditions, those tend to have a hereditary component. It's not that if you have lupus, your daughter will have lupus. It's that your immune system, may be susceptible in a way that, I shouldn't say susceptible. It could be that this genetic susceptibility to having an autoimmune infection, to having your body not recognize itself as this is self and attack itself, that can run in families. And it's most common, autoimmune disorders are most common in Black women. And I always think that a lot of that has to do with like, being Black women in a racist and sexist society, right? And so it's like, we probably aren't even supposed to be here. Like, think about how much you're supposed to be somewhere in West Africa. So we're like taken out of where we're supposed to be. And then we're dealing with these systems of trauma and oppression. These every day, like, can be so hard. And then you get more autoimmune conditions because your immune system gets dysregulated. It gets confused. It's like, I'm supposed to be attacking, bad bacteria and bad viruses, but I'm attacking myself, So it's like, really, it's interesting. And I do think that there's that intersection between, what our risks might be within our families and the environments in which we live that can kind of amplify the, I can amplify the risk. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, but yeah, it's really, but I think the extent that we can is like, we just do what we can do, right? Like, folks, I don't want anyone to be scared, but it's just like, we just whatever choices we can make, even if they're small choices, to eat this instead of that, to get more steps in, get off the bus a few stops earlier and walk longer. Like, these are all little things, but they can have a cumulative positive effect on our health.
I saw Joe's comment. I'm gonna get it up here. Question from earlier. First, Bridget, stay there. Whether trauma in our bodies, we playing back and forth now. Whether
the weathering and trauma in our bodies. Yes. Through generations. Yes.
Racism.
Yes. Exactly.
I can't say that word either.
Yes. Yes. No. Totally. It's really, and that's the thing with the breast cancer screening. Like, so Black women, we get breast cancer at the same rate as white women, but we are more likely to die from it. And a lot of that, again, has to do with access to care. And so, again, getting those preventive, getting those mammograms done, getting pap smears, all of that stuff is really important, because we often then, when we do get something, we fare much worse because of medical racism, lack of healthcare for all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this has been such an informative conversation. Sorry, Olivia, I'm about to go back to the comment that you can.
Oh, GOT. Okay.
Yes. Given the potential impact of art on bone health, what guidelines are needed to ensure timely access to DEXA scan and osteoporosis screening?
Yes, this is an excellent question, and I will double check this, and I don't know if we can get back to you on this, but yes. So yes, these antiretrovirals, particularly tenofovir, have direct impact on the bone. The more and also HIV itself, like the chronic inflammation of it, if someone is not on treatment, can also weaken the bone. So it's like the medications and the virus, if not treated, can affect the bone. They're better, like the tenofovir. There's like a people you probably know, like there's a quote safer version that instead of TDF, it's TAF, that has less bone effects, but and so that's less of an issue with that medication, although it tends to have more metabolic effects, which so like lipids and diabetes. So it's kind of like sometimes a little bit of a trade-off. But I think what's like really most important is that women are doing like weight bearing. So doing a lot of like walking, even doing weights. So any sort of weight bearing, load bearing, where you're like, like stomping, running, whatever it is, like all of those actually, they send a message to the bone to like build the bone. And then also, so things like swimming, for instance, they're great for cardio, but they don't actually help with bone health. But if people out there swimming, continue to swim, but also like be doing your weight bearing exercises. I was going to say something else, but I was trying to be cute and then I forgot it. So what was I going to say? Oh, yes. And then also just making sure that in your whatever you're eating, that you're getting enough calcium and vitamin D. And so there are supplements for that, but often the best way, and I actually do vitamin D. I do a vitamin D spray. That's really good, the vegan spray, but you can take it however you want. So vitamin D, making sure you're getting sun, like, so you need at least 15 minutes in the sun. And if obviously you can't get that, do your supplement. And then what else? And then making sure you're in your food, the food you're eating. So like leafy vegetable, like green leafy vegetables like kale and collard greens, those have a lot of calcium in them. Yogurt has a lot of vitamin D in it, so just figuring out, like, there may be a few foods that you really like, but just making sure you pick some that gets a good amount of vitamin D and calcium. And then also one other quick thing, I know we're talking about family health, but just in general, for cisgender women in particular, when in our 40s, where all this crazy stuff is happening, we also start losing a lot of muscle mass. So yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy. You start losing. It's like this precipitous drop. I'm just like, this needs to be like a public health campaign, because like I'm like learning all this stuff, and I was like, what? I was actually talking with my favorite, one of my favorite people, Deborah Levine, here in New York City, who's at CUNY, but who's done a lot of work in the HIV world. And we were talking. I saw her yesterday because she does a lot of heavy lifting. If you follow her on Instagram, you see her working out. It is so amazing. And she was saying, like, if someone had told her in her 40s, make sure you're getting this amount of protein. Like, protein is so important for, yes. I know, it's crazy. I know. No one says this. Because protein is what our muscles are made of. And when we start losing all the muscle mass starting in our 40s, we need to be lifting heavy weights. It doesn't have to be like even just twice a week, and getting protein in our diet. Whether people are like to eat meats, I eat a lot of like yogurt and tofu, but whatever form you're eating it, just make sure you're getting protein. I know. Everyone 40 and over who's listening, make sure you get your. And then also their protein powders too. So I'll usually do a scoop of protein powder in my water.
Okay.
So,
we can do this. Okay. I saw earlier Bridget had posted something. I just wanted to read it because it was so funny. She said, "You keep blinking because of that heifer petty perimenopause. Mama
No, that's another thing, the brain fog and all of that. No, this is true. So this is what's so crazy, is that all of this happened, the pandemic happened. So, with COVID, people get brain fog, but also it's like trying to differentiate what these symptoms are from. But you're totally right, Bridget, like the brain fog and memory stuff. No, I'm so serious. Okay, so yes, thank you for yes, Patty perimenopause. We call her she petty. We call her petty. She's petty too, and causes all these issues. But yeah, so just to flag that for everyone who's watching. Make sure you're getting your calcium, your vitamin D, your protein. All important.
This doesn't just sound like a nutrition class anymore. Like, it really like I should things that are beneficial for real. I would have never about that, like the protein connection and like muscle loss.
Yeah.
I guess you just sort of think you're gonna have the same body your whole life, and it's gonna keep working the same way that you know it.
Right. No, totally. And I see Krista shared a resource.
Yes. There was a blog from Connie Johnson, one of our family members,
Wonderful.
Black women, racism, and HIV in the U.S. I'm not sure if that's the title, but um, and our evaluation will be shared soon. Please, y'all, if y'all would just take a moment to fill out that very short and brief evaluation so we can make sure that we're continuing to respond to the needs of our community, because this is definitely a conversation that started in community and just like having questions and
Yeah.
hey, well, maybe I do need to know more about my
Yeah.
sister.
Yes, yes. I think everyone, and I also just want to, just pause because I know our trans sisters, they're also just in terms of like screening and family history as well. There may be also like maybe some shared things that like also what our trans sisters doing, but there also may be some different ones because of exposure to different types of estrogens and things like that. Estrogen actually tends to strengthen bone, so things like effects on bone health potentially could be less of an issue, but just making sure that our trans sisters, our cis sisters, all of our sisters are like getting the screenings that they need, and that their healthcare providers have a good family history on them, or whatever they need to inform their care.
Absolutely. Thank you for making that point. Because we all deserve to be able to get the care that we need, and
Yes.
having a history and all of the information to be able to go in there. So I sort of feel like it's not right for me to have these like sort of expectations from my provider to fix everything or to tell me how to fix everything that's wrong with me if I don't even know what I'm coming to the.
No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't. You can put that on them. But I always think of it as like a partnership too. So I always say like my patients are like experts in their lives and their lived experience. And I don't even like, honestly, a lot of medicine, like we know this much of what actually exists, the universe, but I'm an expert in like that area. And so we come together and we work together and figure out like, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to keep you healthy and happy? And yeah.
But then on the other side of that, like, because when I got diagnosed with diabetes, I
Oh,
found that out. It was really dramatic. I ended up in the
yeah.
ICU behind it because I didn't know I was in the diabetic ketoacidosis
Oh,
stage.
I was going to ask you. Okay. Yes. Yes.
My sugar was like extremely high. It was like five something, and my A1C was like 11 something. It was just really bad. But then I was like, oh yeah, my mom has it. My grandma has it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so interesting, Cece. Oh, wow. I'm sure that must have been also really scary too when you ended up in the hospital like that. And is it you have type 1 or type 2?
That's the no, the one that is not an autoimmune
Oh, so you
disorder.
have type 2. Type 2.
Okay, yeah, that one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And that's another thing. Like, yeah, so that, yes, exactly. It's like can have a history, but also, HIV also can contribute the medication. Like there are all these different things. Like it's more the medications that can also contribute to
I
some
felt
of these.
that way, and I brought that up, and my doctor did change my medication as well.
Oh,
But
good.
it sort of made me begin looking at things like that. And if I would have gone in there and probably filled out that form right, that they
Yeah.
actually intake,
Yeah.
like, and they saw that I had a history of diabetes, they might have talked to me a little sooner, about
Yeah. Yeah. No, you
what.
didn't do anything wrong. No, the whole thing is like diabetes is very prevalent, and it's really prevalent in Black communities too. So like it's something that like it should have come up in like the family history. I'm sure you gave them that information. But you were young. You're young. You still are young, so they might not have. It may not have even been on their radar. But that's another thing with when there's a family history of diabetes, you want to do the diabetes screening to make sure the person doesn't have diabetes. And sometimes people have it, they may not have any symptoms, and then it gets full blown. Like what I don't want to say full blown. I haven't say full blown. It may become finally reveal itself in this really sort of dramatic and scary way. Then yes.
And then learning how to, navigate another condition on top
Yes.
of what I've already been trying to manage. It's this
Yes.
job day. But it can be done. It can be done. And at the end of the day, a diagnosis does not mean the end of life. Like there is still more life to live, and
Yes.
we can do that. We can continue to advocate for ourselves. We continue to work in partnership with our healthcare
Yes.
providers and medical teams. And I'm
Mhm.
so grateful deeply appreciate you for today's conversation. It has been eye-opening. I have learned a lot. I love the
So,
quote about I lived inside of my grandmom too. Like I'm walking away with
yes.
that. And I'm thankful.
Oh, thank you, Cece. I'm so glad to be part of this conversation with you, and I learned a lot as well. And I hope there may be just a few nuggets that hope people can take with them. That's helpful. That hopefully wasn't too overwhelming, and that the more we know, the more empowered we can be about taking care of ourselves.
Yay. Thank you all for joining us for episode 45 of A Girl Like Me Live. Make sure you complete that evaluation and have a good day.